continuación, Management Live High Performance, solo por Management TV. Recorre los pasillos junto a los hombres que mueven al mundo. Ilumina el escenario de los ejecutivos. El backstage de las grandes ideas, junto a los pensadores que todos los años suben a escena. La intimidad, la adrenalina, la emoción de los encuentros más importantes. Management Live, los eventos que definen la agenda en vivo. Management Live entra en el Foro Mundial de Rentabilidad en San Pablo, Brasil.
It's a great program. There's a very good mix of great experts to talk about profitability in different angles. And we're looking at a program to focus on the most important subject of every manager, which is profit. We try to find out who are the speakers that could really translate the ideas of profitability into practical terms.
Más de 1000 ejecutivos, 2 días, 6 speakers y el tema que está en la mente de todo hombre de negocios, la rentabilidad. Adrian Slywotsky, considerado el mayor experto en estrategia enfocada a la rentabilidad.
Is how do we maximize our market share in that space?
Autor de bestsellers como The Profit Zone, Profit Patterns y How to Grow When Markets Don't. Adrian Slywotsky es uno de los speakers más solicitados del mundo.
The only way that you will make money from this morning's talk.
Dio conferencias en el Foro Mundial de Davos, en la cumbre de CEOs de Microsoft y también en Forbes, Fortune y Business Week.
I'm often challenged to summarize in a sentence, a phrase, or a single word what this research is about, and I've always failed to do so. And I recently lost my motivation to try when I heard the following apparently true story. When Mikhail Gorbachev was still running the Soviet Union, he was approached by a young financial journalist who challenged him to summarize the state of the Soviet economy with just one word. Gorbachev's English was okay, but not great. He felt uncomfortable, and he said, if I could use just one word, I would say the Soviet economy is good. This was not the level of insight that the journalist was looking for. So the journalist said, okay, Mr. Gorbachev, why don't you use 2 words to describe the Soviet economy? And now Gorbachev smiled because he could communicate exactly what he wanted to. And he said, if I could use 2 words, I would say that the Soviet economy is not good. For better or for worse, Gorbachev could have been describing how our business environment is changing. The traditional rules that define business success, gain market share, gain relative market share, and profitability will follow, have broken down in the last 2 decades. The rules have changed in a fundamental way. The old rule was if you get the highest market share, you'll be the most profitable. If that is still true, it's hard to explain the experiences of American Airlines, US Steel, DEC, Kodak, Xerox, and dozens of other companies that succeeded in the market share game, but somehow profitability didn't follow. Approximately 20 years ago, a new trend hit business, and that was the migration of value from old business models to new business designs or business models that did a much, much better job for the customer. And billions or tens of billions of dollars of value migrated from the old business designs to the new. This discipline of value migration is about answering 3 questions better than our competitors do. The first is, where will we as suppliers be allowed to create profitability in our industry? The second is, what is it about how the customer is changing, not only in preferences, but also in power, that redefines that opportunity space? And thirdly, and most importantly, what's the next generation business design or business model that we have to build to capture and to protect that profitability. One of the most powerful brands in the world is running a no-profit zone in its largest single line of business. How much profit does Coca-Cola make in its largest single line of business? Many people would say that in the beverage world, Coca-Cola is the most powerful brand on the globe. And yet, let's ask ourselves a question. How much profit does Coca-Cola make in its largest single line of business, which is selling carbonated beverages to groceries in the United States? Think about the economics of the beverage business. If you buy a Coca-Cola in a vending machine, you will pay 10 cents per ounce. If you buy Coca-Cola in a restaurant, you will pay 15 cents per ounce. And if you adjust for the ice, it's 25 cents per ounce. If you buy Coca-Cola in the grocery store, you will pay 2 cents per ounce. One of the most powerful brands in the world is running a no-profit zone in its largest single line of business. Coca-Cola recognized it, and under the leadership of Roberto Goizueta in the 1980s, it changed its business model to focus especially on vending and on restaurants. In 1992, it changed its business design once again to take that model international. In 1998, it needed to change its business design one more time, and it didn't. And we've seen the value of Coca-Cola decline ever since. One of the most difficult rules of value migration is this. It used to be true that a business model or business design had an economic life of 20 to 30 years. Today, a business model or a business design will have an economic life of 5 or 6 years, and in certain sectors like technology, it may be only 2 or 3 years. That is why Roberto Goizueta always talked to his managers about the curse of the revenue line. This didn't mean that he hated sales or he hated market share. He just wanted to make sure that all of his managers understood that there was a big difference between revenue and market share and profitability, and to make sure that they focused on maximizing share in the places where profitability was allowed. Roberto Goizueta always talked to his managers about the curse of the revenue line, that there was a big difference between revenue and market share and profitability, and to make sure that they focused on maximizing share in the places where profitability was allowed. The only way that you will make money from this morning's talk is to work to answer a set of questions for your business. Market share is still extremely important, but it's no longer question number one. Question number one is, where will we as suppliers be allowed to create profitability in our industry? And then question number two is, how do we maximize our market share in that space?
David Ripstein, profesor de marketing de la Wharton School of Business.
For the last 6 years, the number one topic that companies have been struggling with.
Es un especialista en indicadores de marketing y sus consecuencias financieras para empresas.
What are the measures that we want to look at for trying to get a sense of profitability?
David Ripstein actúa como consultor de empresas como General Electric, Novartis y Johnson & Johnson.
Because when you're back at the office and you're a CEO, you can't let people know that you don't understand what's going on.
Considerado por las revistas Fortune y Business Week como uno de los mejores profesores de negocios del mundo.
But But I'm going to take an angle in looking at it and trying to think about what in marketing, besides just price, I'll talk a little bit about price, but what in marketing really drives that? And what are the measures that we want to look at for trying to get a sense of profitability? And so I will tell you that most of the time I'm at the University of Pennsylvania, where the Wharton School is, and I teach a course on marketing metrics. And we spend a week going through details about this. I'm going to try and condense that week to the next hour and a half. For the last 6 years, the number one topic that companies have been struggling with, the very number one topic, has been centered around marketing metrics and how we link that to profitability. How much it is that Intel spent last year on the Intel Inside campaign. Does Intel pay the OEMs to put Intel Inside on the product? Anybody here from Intel? I see no hands up, so I can tell all sorts of stories. The head of the Intel Inside campaign was in my executive program on marketing metrics. And does Intel pay the OEMs to put Intel Inside on the product? Or do the OEMs, the original equipment manufacturers, pay Intel? Which is it? Do you know? Most of us don't know. And half of us are wrong. Intel pays Dell, or pays Acer, or pays Lenovo, or pays HP to put Intel Inside on the product and put it on the box. And if they do it of a certain size, Intel will pay for the advertising for that original equipment manufacturer, to a point. I want you to guess, in your mind, how much it is that Intel spent last year on the Intel Inside campaign. We all know Intel Inside. How much would you guess that they spent? Well, give me a guess. 20 million? 200 million. 200 million. Is that high? Last year, Intel spent in excess of $1 billion on the Intel Inside campaign. Now, could you imagine going to your boss and saying, I'd like $1 billion to try my campaign? How can they justify spending $1 billion? And the answer to that is very clear. They pay out of this pocket to the OEMs. Here's $1 billion. They charge a 25% premium for the Intel chip over the AMD chip. Now, I will tell you, and I was an expert witness in the Intel AMD legal case years ago. I will tell you that in a blind taste test, we cannot tell the difference between one chip and another chip. But they charge a 25% premium. You're willing to pay extra if, oh, does it have Intel? You're willing to pay extra for it, and they charge you 25% extra for that component. Actually, 2006, Intel's revenue, $38 billion. 25% of that was because of brand. That's $9.5 billion of incremental contribution came from the brand. So let's see, I paid out $1 billion, I took in $9 billion. Now, I don't know how you think about it down here, but that's a good return on investment where I live. Intel pays Dell or pays Acer, to put Intel inside on the product and put it on the box. So let's see, I paid out $1 billion, I took in $9 billion.
En el próximo bloque de Management Live, no te pierdas. Robert Kaplan, un legendario profesor de Harvard y el creador de la más importante herramienta de gestión del mundo, la Balance Scorecard. Estamos de vuelta con Management Live, hoy en el Foro Mundial de Rentabilidad de San Pablo. Robert Kaplan, profesor del Harvard Business School, ha contribuido significativamente a la ciencia de la estrategia y gestión de costos.
The key to not just profitability, but sustained profitability is the ability to execute your strategy.
Creador de Balance Scorecard y Activity-Based Costing, dos de las más eficientes herramientas de gestión del mundo.
There's a lot of motion, a lot of noise, but ultimately not sustainable and successful strategy execution.
Robert Kaplan es el autor del bestseller La Estrategia en Acción, considerada la más importante herramienta de gestión para conectar empresas a sus objetivos estratégicos.
Bom dia. Very happy to be back in Sao Paulo. What we've learned, very important, the key to not just profitability, but sustained profitability, is the ability to execute your strategy. Most organizations do not succeed in the implementation of their strategy. So the new CEO of British Petroleum, BP, just in October of last year, said, we didn't have a problem with our strategy, it was about the execution of it. Jamie Dimon, now the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, previously with Citibank, really said this very well. I'd rather have a good strategy that everybody understands and that they can successfully implement than a brilliant strategy that nobody knows what they're supposed to do with it. Strategy without tactics is the long road to victory. But tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. And it's the second part of that most companies struggle with. They have tactics, they have operations. They may even have very good operations in quality and in Six Sigma programs. But if those tactics and operations are not embedded within a strategic framework, there's a lot of motion, a lot of noise, but ultimately not sustainable and successful strategy execution. Current work at the Harvard Business School, which will be reported in the Harvard Business Review next month, so this is very contemporary work, is showing how you can represent your strategy with really three components. Component one is what is the objective, and this is what I said is the vision. That term is the objective. What are the ends that we're driving to achieve and a time frame in which we achieve it? Second part is the advantage. This is the strategy part. What are we going to do differently or better than our competitors that will position us in a way that we can have a sustainable, high return on our capital employed? And here's where you can use a variety of strategy formulation disciplines and tools, including one of the more recent ones, the Blue Ocean approach that Chan Kim, who I know has spoken in Sao Paulo with HSM, has articulated of finding entirely new market spaces in which to compete. And this is the art. I can't tell you how to find those blue ocean parts where no competitor is currently operating, but where there's a large customer base waiting for somebody to deliver those services. But that's what we're trying to achieve. What is our niche? What's the value proposition? And then the third part is the scope. We can't be everything to everybody. Who is the target audience? So the scope could be particular market segments. It could be a particular part of the industry value chain. It could be a region. We're going to dominate the industry in Latin America or in Portuguese-speaking countries. So scope can be customer segments, segment of a value chain, or a geographical region. An example for a company you probably can visualize, even if you have not used that company, which is a discount airline in the United States, the original discount airlines, which is Southwest Airlines. Well, its objective is to be the most profitable U.S.-based airline. What are they going to do differently and better than other U.S.-based airlines is the lowest prices in the industry. What would be the OAS, Objectives, Advantage, Scope statement that a Southwest Airlines might use to describe its strategy? Well, its objective is to be the most profitable U.S.-based airline. And you'd have to define how we measure profitability, whether it's net income, return on assets, economic value added. So that would be a detail behind this. The advantage, what are they going to do differently and better than other U.S.-based airlines, is the lowest prices in the industry to compete for a certain segment of the population, and also to try to get people out of cars, buses, and trains when doing intercity travel. So the advantage is to offer the speed of an airline with the low prices, convenience, and reliable arrival and departure times of cars, buses, and trains. So this is a blue ocean strategy to combine different features of the airlines as well as cars and trains. And what's the scope? Not everybody, including me, flies Southwest Airlines because I'm not very price sensitive. I generally have other people who pay my travel expenses. So I'd rather have the comfort and convenience of a full-service airline. But there's a large population segment who's very price sensitive: students, low-income people, business people on limited expense accounts who value low prices but also convenient on-time flights. But there's a large population segment who's very price sensitive, who value low prices but also convenient on-time flights. So here's a strategy statement. It's not 50 pages in a blue binder. It's 40 words to describe what we're trying to accomplish, how we will accomplish it, and to whom.
En el próximo bloque de Management Live.
O custo da sobrevivencia.
Management Live, High Performance. Solo por Management TV. Estamos de vuelta con Management Live. Hoy, en el World Profitability Forum en San Pablo. Herman Simon, una de las principales autoridades en marketing, estrategia y gestión de precios en Europa.
Manage for profit, not for market share, is perceived as a provocation by many managers.
Autor de más de 30 libros, publicados en 16 idiomas.
That the most profitable company, the one with the highest prices, is also the market leader. This is the situation of good market share.
La consultora de la cual es presidente, Simon Catcher & Partners, tiene oficinas en 9 países y un gran portfolio de clientes en todo el mundo.
Boa tarde. É prazer estar com vocês. A última vez em que estive com vocês foi na Copa do Mundo. Brasil ganhou de 2-0 da Alemanha. Let's be honest. We all claim to be going for profit, but heads start rolling as soon as the market share drops by 0.1%. When profit goes down by 20%, nothing happens. And this is our message with a new book which just came out in Portuguese: Manage for profit, not for market share. Gerenciar para o lucro não para a participação de mercado. Sony must charge higher prices, must get something for its brand premium. It's a very well-known brand. And then the global head of marketing of Sony said, but then we lose market share. Sony, as you may know, has had a margin of about 2% for the last years. Its main competitor, Samsung Electronics from Korea, consistently has a margin of 10 to 12%. So this is a very dangerous situation. So we came to the conclusion that Sony must charge higher prices, must get something for its brand premium. It's a very well-known brand. Everybody knows Sony. It even has a good image. So they have to charge higher prices to come to reasonable margins. Everybody nodded, agreed. And then the global head of marketing of Sony said, but then we lose market share. Silencia. Nobody said anything any longer. Even I kept my mouth shut. So I'm not too timid. What had happened? A taboo had been touched. Unthinkable that you voluntarily sacrifice, accept a decline in market share in order to become more profitable. What should I have said? I should have said, okay, yes, we will lose 3 or 5% market share, but our margin may go up from 2% to 6 or 7% to a rather reasonable level. But when a taboo is touched, you better keep your mouth shut. Yes, we will lose 3 or 5% market share, but our margin may go up from 2% to 6 or 7% to a rather reasonable level. Japan, an admired economy of the 20 OECD countries, these are the most industrialized countries in the world. In terms of profitability, Japan is always number 20. The lowest profitability of all countries in the world. In the same industry, we have totally different opinions. Here is one. The guy says, we have a policy of keeping prices stable to protect our brand and to prevent a drop in prices for used cars. We keep prices stable. When demand goes down, we reduce production but don't lower our prices. Porsche is, of course, a small automotive company, but it's the most profitable automotive company in the world. Wendell Wiedeking, the CEO of Porsche, exactly the opposite opinion. Does he do it? You may know the Porsche Cayenne, the SUV, sports utility vehicle, which is now in its 7th year, and over the life cycle, the demand is declining. What has he done? He reduced production. He kept the price stable. A few years ago, when demand for Porsches was not that high in the United States, that's their most important market, the CEO of Porsche North America started to give cashbacks. When Wiedeking learned of this, he immediately fired the CEO of North America, his most important subsidiary, and said, nobody is ever going to give cashback with a Porsche. Now, who is Porsche? Porsche is, of course, a small automotive company, but it's the most profitable automotive company in the world. And it is just in the process of taking over Volkswagen, which in terms of revenue is 15 times larger. The revenue of Porsche is about 6 billion euros, so $9 billion. The revenue of Volkswagen is 100 billion euros, so $150 billion, similar to the size of General Motors. So this dwarf is taking over the giant, swallowing the giant. How can that be? Profit. You don't live from revenue, you don't live from market share, you live from profit. And profit determines your power in the market to take over other companies. So this dwarf is taking over the giant, swallowing the giant. How can that be? Profit. You don't live from revenue, you don't live from market share, you live from profit. When I say manage for profit, not for market share, some people think that I am against market share. I am the biggest fan of market share in the world. I ask you, how did you earn it? How did you come to this position? What does good market share mean? This is market share earned by performance, by quality, by innovation, by offering value to customer. This market share comes along with high margins, with high lucros. So very often we see that the most profitable company, the one with the highest prices, is also the market leader. This is the situation of good market share. And bad market share is the prevalent thing which you see, where market share is conquered by aggressive pricing, by discounts, by giving away everything for free to the customer without having correspondingly low costs. If you have lower costs, you can afford to sell your products at low prices. But then the root is again in the performance, in the better production processes, or whatever. But if you do not have lower cost, if you are a normal airline, a normal telecommunications company, a normal consumer electronics company, a normal retailer, this is the way into the hell. Profit should and must be the first goal of each firm. Profit is the cost of survival. Lucro è o costo da sobrevivencia. Lucro è o costo da sobrevivencia. Understood?
Robert Herborn.
Thank you.
Fue Chief Operations Officer de Microsoft durante 8 años, donde trabajó directamente con Bill Gates. La rentabilidad de la empresa aumentó 7 veces durante su gestión.
They're not going to gain competitive advantage as a company from their financial systems.
Herborn es el autor de libros como Seduced by Success y The Fiefdom Syndrome.
When you're trying to figure out what were our costs and consequently what were our profits.
Su empresa de consultoría, Herborn Group, es especialista en estrategia y rentabilidad.
Now I want to shift gears and talk about creativity for a bit. We talked a lot about discipline and the way you bring discipline to an organization. And remember, you have to do both. Both things are important. From a profitability standpoint, we need to grow revenue. We do that with great ideas. We also need to hold down costs. We do that with good discipline and with great ideas as to how to run the place. So creativity is very important. The first thing I want to talk about is the importance of avoiding committees and consensus when you're dealing with big, distinctive ideas. Nothing kills a great idea like a committee, okay? So you have to beware. The example is Apple. Teams exist to improve processes. Teams kill creativity. So you need to put specific individuals, one that is, in charge of creative generation. Apple faced the same inflection points that Sony did in 1999. They were staring at Napster and reading about it every day, just the way the folks at Sony were. Or maybe the folks at Sony weren't reading about it, but they should have been. Well, I'll tell you, Steve Jobs was reading those stories about Napster, and he went to work. What did he do? He formed a small team of top performers. Small team means 6 people. This is not a big project, okay? Remember, the fewer people in a team, the better off you are. Secondly, these were highly talented people, but they all knew there was one leader. His name was Tony Fadell, a highly seasoned veteran who knew handheld devices really well. Deep expertise among these 6 people, he kept the group very small. Another thing he did was he told them the focus of this project very narrow. It's all about portable music, so don't go wandering off with what you think is a bright idea. We want to seize the potential of portable music and the internet. So he limited the number of ideas that he kept alive. What happens with a lot of creative teams is they follow too many things. They keep too many ideas alive. He didn't let this happen. But probably the best thing that he did was he kept the team totally secret within Apple. So why did he do that? He didn't want these people to be exposed to all the expertise within the company, because all that would result in is a bunch of meetings and the distinctive ideas being whittled down to become average. Because what groups of people do is they take distinctive ideas and they hack away at the sharp edges to make it totally acceptable to the group. And often the person who is told, go get the input from the other divisions, interprets that of, oh, I have to actually listen to them and then do what they suggest, which creates a lot of averageness. Teams exist to improve processes. Teams kill creativity. So you need to put specific individuals, one that is, in charge of creative generations. And this is an important concept. So what happened? Well, the results you know all about. iPod was launched in October 2001. It immediately got a 70% share. But importantly, it grew the category significantly. It absolutely revitalized Apple as a company. So it's an incredible story. What's the learning? Beware. If you're after innovative, creative ideas, don't count on hordes of people with complicated organizations and lots of meetings. Get somebody who's highly talented, highly experienced, and explain the issue to them, and give them the breathing room to actually invent. What did he do? He formed a small team of top performers. Small team means 6 people. Secondly, these were highly talented people, but they all knew there was one leader. Another thing he did was he told them the focus of this project very narrow. It's all about portable music, so don't go wandering off with what you think is a bright idea.
En el próximo bloque de Management Live, no te pierdas las lecciones de liderazgo de uno de los mayores empresarios de Brasil, Oriovisto Guimarães, fundador del Grupo Positivo.
Porque o mundo pertence a quem se atreve e a vida é muito.
Ya volvemos con Management Live, High Performance, por Management TV. Estamos de vuelta con Management Live. Hoy, en el World Profitability Forum en San Pablo. Oriovisto Guimarães, fundador de Grupo Positivo, una de las mayores empresas de educación y tecnología del mundo.
Acho que essa história do Grupo Positivo será interessante para vocês naquilo que ela tem de aplicável a outras empresas e a outras atividades.
Además de Brasil, su corporación está en Estados Unidos, África, Asia, Europa y Medio Oriente.
Nós estamos falando muito mais do que na empresa, muito mais do que na lucratividade. Nós estamos falando também de pessoas.
Los productos y servicios que ayudó a crear en el área de la educación están presentes en las aulas de 10 millones de alumnos de escuelas públicas y privadas de Brasil.
E esses 35 anos me ensinaram a primeira coisa, que todo homem é um empreendedor de si mesmo.
Su editora, Positiva, y la gráfica, Posigraf, son líderes del mercado en Brasil.
A primeira coisa que eu queria colocar aqui é o seguinte: eu já estou há 35 anos como fundador e presidente do grupo. E esses 35 anos me ensinaram a primeira coisa, que todo homem é um empreendedor de si mesmo. Isso da gente sair de casa e achar que a gente vai para o trabalho, que vai trabalhar e vai construir uma empresa, é uma grande bobagem. Você vai construir a empresa sim, mas você vai construir a você mesmo também. Não é? Você se transforma pelo trabalho. Você passa a ser outra pessoa. Você torna-se melhor ou você torna-se mais azedo. Depende muito desse trabalho. O trabalho tem que ser necessariamente fonte de felicidade. Nós passamos a grande parte da nossa vida no trabalho. E é uma grande tolice imaginar que eu vou esperar a aposentadoria para ser feliz. Não vai sobrar mais tempo, não é? E normalmente o que acontece quando a gente se aposenta é que não é bem a felicidade que vem, são as dores do reumatismo e coisas do gênero. Minha sugestão é que sejam felizes já, não dá para estocar o tempo. Então não é só a empresa, é a vida de vocês que está nessa brincadeira. Nós estamos falando muito mais do que na empresa, muito mais do que na lucratividade. Nós estamos falando também de pessoas, estamos falando também de felicidade, não é? Aliás, para que a gente quer lucro? Se não para ser feliz. É aquilo, se ponha por inteiro que as coisas tomam outra dimensão. Seja humilde na medida certa. Ninguém faz nada sozinho. Você tem que formar uma equipe, você tem que valorizar, premiar, mas você tem que medir resultados, tem que ser solidário. Mas não se esqueça, ninguém aceita como líder um coitadinho. Se você é líder, você é líder. E líder tem um preço. O Criador não comanda a criatura, ela tem vontade própria, leis próprias. Você não pode tudo. Isso é uma mensagem, sobretudo, para presidentes de empresas, para donos de empresa. Você não pode tudo. Não se esqueça que a economia pertence ao reino técnico-científico, que tem leis que não dependem da sua vontade, que você tem que perceber essas leis e obedecer essas leis. O cidadão que se deslumbra e que acha que ficou rico e que agora pode tudo é um bobo. A falência está esperando no próximo passo. O verdadeiro líder não se serve da empresa, antes existe para servi-la. E é isso mesmo. Você tem mais é que trabalhar porque a tua empresa está... E quanto mais cresce, pior fica, hein? Não pensa que vai dar moleza. O sonho feliz jamais termina e nunca será totalmente real. Não tem fim, rigorosamente não tem fim. Esse ano nós inauguramos um teatro, inauguramos um centro de evento, mas já tem um monte de ideia no forno. Tem um monte de oceano azul que a gente está vislumbrando aí, e a gente tem que pesquisar um pouco para ver se é azul mesmo ou se é preto escuro, e a gente está muito otimista, né? Eu estou terminando. 2 últimos conselhos. Se tudo der errado, que eu falei para vocês que tem que ter um pouco de ousadia, tem que ter mesmo. Se tudo der errado, lembre-se do Charlie Chaplin. Olha que frase linda dele. Bom mesmo é ir à luta, com determinação. Abraçar a vida e viver com paixão. Perder com classe e vencer com ousadia. Porque o mundo pertence a quem se atreve. E a vida é muito. Acho que o Charlie Chaplin foi um empreendedor, foi um cara incrível, né? E também, né, ligado às artes, ligado a tudo. Uma cultura geral muito grande. Gente, o grande perigo é se tudo der certo. Se tudo der certo, vocês correm um sério risco de cair no infastio ou de cair no deslumbre. E vejam que frase, para terminar, de 4 palavrinhas que o Goethe fez. A ação é tudo. A glória é nada. Não é? O trabalho não tem fim, faz parte da nossa diversão. Muito obrigado.
Passou uma mensagem de força, de alegria.
De forma muito clara, objetiva, sobre a lucratividade.
Eu achei muito interessante.
Achei excelente.
Todos são excelentes, ótimos.
Foi bem real, bem próximo da gente.
O evento é super importante.
Uma grande oportunidade de aprendizado.
Todos nós precisamos estar atentos a essas mudanças no mercado.
A possibilidade de se aplicar a metodologia.
Implementar as ações.
Com um conteúdo bem interessante, bem atual para aquilo que nós precisamos.
Eu gostei muito, foi muito bom.